Storm DJs Podcasts.
Welcome to the 26th episode of the Storm DJs Podcast, the DJ Interviews. Today we're thrilled to welcome musician and DJ who's been captivating audiences with his unique blend of saxophone and DJ skills. Hailing from Italy and now based in London, he's a versatile international artist. And having performed in world-renowned venues such as Ronnie Scott's Jazz Club, the Royal Albert Hall, and having jetted out to global parties, he's a talent that knows no bounds. Please welcome the one and only Simone Geda, also known as Simo Sax. In this episode, we'll share his journey, his thoughts on AI in music, and how he prefers his sandwiches.
Hey, how are you? Familiar here. Yeah. Okay, got it. I had another link.
Is this the video of your studio?
Well, it's my studio / bedroom, so yeah.
Oh, well, perfect. It's the best place to be then.
Yeah, it's where I pass most of the time when I'm not outside. So
excellent, yeah. Excellent, good stuff. Well, thanks for taking the time today to have the podcast interview. So, tell us about your current stage name and where it comes from.
So, my current stage name is Simo Sax, I would say. And it comes from, well, my name is Simone. My full name is Simone. It's an Italian name. And Simo is the short name of Simone, as is the way that all my friends used to call me. And it actually comes very randomly from Instagram, in a way, like when I had to open my Instagram account probably 10 years ago when Instagram appeared in the world. I was like, okay, I need a short name or something. And I always played saxophone. So the easiest ways were like Simo.sax, Simo_sax, something like this. And at the end, I kept it. And now, well, I'm using it also as a stage name.
Excellent. So fairly straightforward shortening of the full name, which makes complete sense.
Nowadays, many artists, many performers are like Timmy Trumpet, Jimmy Sax. So, and it was like a joke, and then it ended up being stage name.
Mm-hmm. So, yes, if you've got the target of getting up to Timmy Trumpet, I think that's a good target. Simo Sax, the next Timmy Trumpet. So you, in terms of the sax performances and so forth, that's where you sort of started from, wasn't it? And then you added on the DJing on top of that. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I started studying music when I was a kid, so I was 8-9 years old, and the idea was absolutely not to end up DJing or doing any kind of particular performance. I was like a kid and my parents were like, oh, there's a new music school opening in our village. Do you want to have a look? And I'm like, yeah, why not? And I remember at that time I loved percussions and drums. I wanted to be a drummer. And then I remember entering the school. It's like, no, we don't have drums teacher. We just have woodwind instruments. So I'm like, okay. And I just remember being fascinated by saxophone sound. I don't know where I heard it or how and everything. And I was like, okay, I want to play saxophone. But then they told me, no, you can't play saxophone. First, you have to learn clarinet. We're like, okay, fair enough. So actually, the beginnings have been with clarinet. I've been studying clarinet, practicing for 3 years. And then when I was about 12, 13, I was like, no, okay. My teacher was like, if you're happy with my clarinet skills now, can I switch back to what I wanted, that is saxophone? Mm-hmm. And I never stopped. So my background is classical music and wind music, and then later on a bit more jazz and modern music. And I went on practicing. I ended up in the conservatoire in Italy a few years. And when I finished my high school back in Italy, I had to decide if to go to the university or go on just with music. But at the time I was starting already teaching and conducting some with orchestras. And I said, okay, I want to concentrate all my energies on music. Ended up finding a very good saxophone teacher from Rome that he said, look, come with me in Spain. There's an amazing college for saxophone. And there's a big structure to be like in terms of buildings and possibility to play amazing students. So I ended up in Spain, in Mallorca for 4 years, doing my Bachelor of Music.
Very nice.
And there is where I started playing with DJs and discovering the electronic music world. Obviously, I was listening to dance music and other stuff at the same time. And then the last step has been moving to London in 2018 for my master in music, always classical music, with some project in conducting orchestra also, or jazz and modern music. So very different things. And then ended up in fully being like after my master in music, COVID happened. And after COVID, well, I already started playing with DJs and DJing a bit by myself in my bedroom. And after COVID, step by step, working more in the string industry as a sax performer and then DJ. So that's more or less.
Excellent. You basically answered all the questions in one. That's pretty good going.
That's I try to brief my
rewinding a bit for those of us who aren't that familiar with exactly the difference between a clarinet and a saxophone. Obviously, we know what they look like, but how is that different in terms of, you know, how does the functionality work differently? Is it that different? I mean,
is the basic concept is similar. So the mouthpiece is where we blow inside the instrument is has the same concept, that is a reed, piece of wood that vibrates and creates the sound. So that's why when you're a kid, probably the clarinet is a bit smaller and less volume, so it's easier to work with, even if then nowadays people just start with clarinet, saxophone, luckily. But back in the days, it was a conception of like, oh, you need to learn a clarinet because it was a more serious instrument, and then saxophone just for fun. But then, our like the concept of blowing is similar, but then saxophone, for the fact is a brass instrument at the end, made of brass. How the sounds is how the sax sound is built inside the instrument is completely different of clarinet. So I ended up having two different timbre. Mm-hmm. So I would say that clarinet is very associated to classical music and some swing, jazz music. While why I loved saxophone is because it was the most flexible instrument I could think about it. That gives space to play any kind of music and the way you want it. That's why.
Excellent. In terms of the the way the notes are arranged and stuff, is it different? The same? Oh, okay.
No, some positions are similar, but the clarinet has a 12th note difference between one octave and the other position. And the saxophone is quite easy in terms of position. That's why it's a immediate instrument. Many people just start, and it's quite easy to learn like position compared to the clarinet. But clarinet has holes on the tube, while saxophone has all the keys. So it's easy to switch.
I'm yet to see a clarinet alongside a DJ. It's just not got the same glamour level, has it?
No, definitely. But there are some cool projects, mainly. I think this famous DJ, I think he's from Greece, called Valeron, that plays more organic, melodic, ethnic house. He has a very cool band with the instruments, Greek instruments, and there's also clarinet player, and for that kind of vibe, is very cool.
Excellent. So through your sort of journey, learning the sax and studying and the rest of it, what were you sort of influenced by? Anyone in particular? Any big names that existed at the time?
With the saxophone, obviously my background was classical, as I said, but I always been interested in many different kind of music, and I love to improvise. I would say there are big saxophonists that made history, but I was more inspired by people that were also producing music. And it was this amazing saxophone player and electronic music producer called Gianni Denitto back in Italy. That is the one that really inspired me to do what I am actually doing now in a certain context. But then in the last years in Spain, I met also like some DJs like Kiko Navarro, which is kind of music, these influences with Latin, Afro, Mediterranean, Cuban music. I had very big influences also from saxophonists like Javier Girotto back in Argentina, that I met him in Spain as well. So everything that is related with the world music in a way, like influences from different cultures. So I never been like, oh, this is just saxophone. I love discovering other artists, other producers. And nowadays, Mainly what I hear is like what I listen to, and I try to get inspiration is from producers of electronic music, maybe a bit more progressive, melodic. And I love that one man show sometimes performance.
Yeah.
So, nowadays a lot of people playing different instruments.
Definitely. And that sort of leads into the concept of you being, quite unique. I know there's a few of you out there now, but unique in terms of basically being the DJ and the saxophonist at the same time. So that obviously makes you stand out quite a lot. Is that something that was influenced by anyone in particular, the concept of doing the sort of one-man show?
Well, there are some groups like Who Made Who or Paraforcuva, kind of concept of sounds. And I saw some live on the internet, and I was like, on YouTube, like, this is really what I want to do. And for the fact that I was playing saxophone always with other DJs, that for certain parties was amazing. But I also really wanted to create my show and to do my music. I'm not producing, I'm working on producing, but I love also to take other music from other artists and try to create a set and play saxophone on top on different kind of styles, from proper party house to something a bit more melodic and mellow. So it's a good journey. It's interesting. I'm learning. I'm very open to different things, and I'm always looking around and try to find more inspiration.
Yeah, that all makes sense. Can you tell us about your first ever gig, as in public performance with your sax, and then after that with the decks as well?
Well, I tell you the first experience with a DJ, so DJing sax. That was probably 10 years ago, something like this. And I was in Italy for a short time. I was already living in Spain. I was in Italy for a short time for some Easter holidays, probably, or Christmas holidays. And I remember there was a big party in a villa in north of Italy. And this guy from my city is like, look, I'm going to DJ. I called this Cuban percussionist and I'd like to do something with the saxophone. I'm like, well, I know I can improvise, but I actually never done it live with, not knowing what was going on in terms of music. And was very stressful, I remember, back in the days. And I remember having to walk down from the stairs while he was starting this piece by Guti that was very minimal, very with no harmony, with no melody. And I start playing. I'm like, I have no idea what I'm going to play now. I don't like where I can catch some inspirational things to improvise on top of it. But yeah, I saved it, and I remember all the other performers were older than me and it gave me some suggestions. So it was a good night at the end, but it was very challenging for being the first.
Definitely. I can sort of, just imagine those times for a saxophonist, if it is like very minimal with no clue about what the actual chord structure is or anything. It's just like, I've just got to make something.
And I remember
up.
Also that I arrived from a point where the music was not in a flood, so I was even struggling to hear properly. And this situation happened a lot. No, but now, obviously, with experience, you know how to deal with it. But this was the first time.
Have you got any particular gig from the past that stands out as being the best gig ever?
I don't know if I have the best gig ever, but I have a few gigs that I did at this place where I'm resident now in Canary Wharf in London. It's called Pergola. And it's where I'm growing up as a DJ and as a performer always more. And I remember probably, I had like 3 gigs of trial there 2 years ago. And it was the first time actually I was playing with CDJs.
Mm-hmm.
And so I practiced obviously with other kind of controller, but CDJ was the first time. I studied it before because I knew I was expecting it, but also when you find it there for the first time and you have to play is a big thing. And
it's a bit daunting, isn't it?
Yeah. On the second time I've been there, I remember this place just opened, was just over after COVID, and that night was amazing. I remember like people were like, I was just my 2-hour set DJing sax, but I remember it was very huge. And from that night, the owner actually of the venue were there, and I didn't know about that, and they said, okay, we want you as a resident here. And I remember very good feelings, and yeah, definitely good vibes.
Excellent. Going back into your history and so forth, and your sort of love of different types of music, can you think back to the first thing or the first record or the first CD or whatever it was you first bought way back when, and what was it?
Well, I can't think honestly on the first record, because I can think more on the first kind of style, kind of genre I had to prepare, and that was first for a very small intimate wedding of friends back in Italy some years ago. And they just asked me, okay, you play this song with the saxophone, please. We love it. So I prepared the backing track. I think was I can't remember the name. I have the song in my mind. I can't remember the name. But anyway, and after that, I had to. They asked me, "Oh, if you want to DJ after, is okay." But back in the time in Italy, they told me so last minute that I didn't have a controller with me, so I literally download this virtual DJ on my iPad, and I remember back home preparing a playlist of just dance music and Italian music of the 80s, 90s. So that was probably my first approach to, okay, let's try to make this work and see what I can do.
So these days, if someone wants to book you for a DJ and sax performance, do you have a limit on how long you go for normally? Because an average DJ says, "Oh, I can't do more than 5 hours or something." But then if you're playing sax as well, surely it's a lot less than that.
Well, I have to say, like, depends on how intense they want the night. So sometimes it happened to have to do DJing sax for 6 hours. But that means that the amount of time that I play a saxophone per hour is reduced.
Yeah,
definitely. But if I have to do a good show, playing saxophone like pretty often, and everything is between 2 and 3 hours. Because then also I like to give space, but push with the saxophone. Depends always on the show. But yeah, I don't think like if I have to play frequently the saxophone and DJ recent times is doable to do more than 3 hours on a certain intensity. But yeah, definitely I do more than now. For example, I have a new residency on a rooftop, and I do 4 hours, but it's very like relaxed, chill vibe. So I play maybe 3 or 4 songs with the saxophone per hour, and it's very like chill improvisation, jazzy. So it's different concept.
Excellent. In terms of when you're DJing, do you just use CDJs now, or have you got a controller as well, or what do you normally do?
Well, I got a controller. Sometimes I use it. I got the XDJ RX3, and I love it. I would be happier if it would have maybe 4 channels instead of 2, it's very, I love it because it's very fast. It's very, like, you can prepare, you can actually, for the fact that it's touch, there are a lot of things that you can do and save time. And for the fact that I'm playing saxophone, I need something fast and easy and quick. Having more channels would help for me preparing maybe more songs ahead if I have to play saxophone. But obviously with the tag list and everything, you can do a lot of things. I like CDJs, obviously. I really love it. Working with the mixer. When I mainly DJ, or maybe I play less saxophone. But if I do DJing sax, even if it's more cool to have CDJs, actually having the RX3 is very easy. And I feel like it's a very good controller for the kind of stuff I do, because it's quite immediate.
Very cool. And in terms of your sax receiver, has that got effects in it as well, or are you just using the effects once they feed into the mixer?
When I start playing with DJs, I very, in an innocent way, I always ask the DJ to give me some of their effects. And then when I start DJing, I was like, why am I doing this? Why am I bothering people giving me the effects? So no, definitely, it's been more than 2 years now, using, I have two kind of microphones depending on the situations. And with the microphone, I have two different pedal of effects that I use. So I just plug in the saxophone output with the effects into the controller. So I'm happy with the sounds I have. It's very important for me.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. In terms of where we're at now, in terms of technology and stuff, how do you feel AI is going to impact the DJ and entertainment industry over the next few years?
Well, definitely, is it doing already? Maybe, I don't know if it's because of AI, but if we check the new controllers, I don't remember the names of Pioneer, and they have already some controllers that is, when you move the fader, it changes also the tempo and everything. So also it's actually mixing out now for you. I know that I'm new to the DJ world, but I was lucky to be trained by a DJ who was very good and very serious and very old style. And I really appreciate that. And also because coming from a academic and classical background, we are used to go deep into information, how to do things. So I like to know very well how to mix, how to do things without all the helps from technology, because when technology then lets you down, it's up to you. So definitely AI is an amazing thing happening, and all what is around it. I don't think for not just for DJ, but for the creative industry in general, it's helping. It will affect, but it will affect people probably that don't have a solid background, or aren't really in love with what they do, but are more like trying to find tricks and shortcuts to reach certain level or certain popularity. But I don't think that's the goal of being a musician or being an artist, to find shortcuts. So
are you afraid that certain sort of new production work might not be created by humans anymore? If you just hear a new track, you're like, is that someone who's actually done that, or is that a computer? I mean,
yeah. I mean, I saw this video. I think it was David Guetta that
the Eminem one.
With the Eminem one,
yeah.
Eminem song, with Eminem voice. And I was like, well, that's impressive. But I feel like many other things, that technology things in the world, in the society right now, it's up to the morality of the person to know in which direction to go. I'm not too worried about that, honestly. I still feel like real performance will never be beaten by a machine. And because improvisation is something based on our experience and our mind, is affected by the circumstances around us. So it will never be replaced by just numbers. Yes, there are going to be situations where we're going to be very surprised in the future. I'm sure we're going to be in difficulties probably for certain things, but real art will never be
exactly
replaced.
We'll check back in a few years and see. I will let you know.
Let's have a chat in 5 years. Let's see what happens. If I'm gonna be crying and saying, "No, I was so wrong."
Exactly. Let's see what happens.
I stay with the humans.
Looking back to 3 years ago, essentially, when the big COVID hit us, or what happened for you, and what was the effect for you, and how did you get through it?
Oh, well, that was probably the darkest moment of my life, without being too dramatic, but also that's true fact. So I was still studying my master in music at the Royal College of Music, and I was my second year there, and I had to prepare my last exams. Was a huge amount of work to do, and really it was hard because I'm coming from a breakup, so not in the best mental place. In a room back in Fulham Broadway in London that was supposed to be just a temporary room, very small, in a dark part of the house, and nothing surprise. Okay, guys, you have to stay here. And majority of my friends, Italian friends, went back home, and I couldn't cope with the idea of going back home and bring home something to my family, COVID, that could create some problem. So I said, no, I'm going to stay here. I was lucky that at least I had lovely flatmates back then. It was a big house and we helped each other a lot. But in terms of music, obviously, the fun fact was like 2 months before COVID happened, I started working not 2 months before. I started working in London a year before, but then 2 months before, we were actually already working with Storm DJs. I get more work coming in. And I said, okay, if things go on like this is December, but maybe by next summer, I'm going to be able to have a good amount of gigs per month. And then boom, closing the house, struggling doing my final exam, jazz exam and performing exam, conducting exam, all on a webcam like this. The only way that I managed to go on was teaching online. And I started buying my first speakers, my first keyboards, and try to do some music, some recordings. So yeah, very challenging time. I'm very happy it's finished. Yeah. I guess was fun.
Yeah, definitely. Well, especially within our industry, it's just it was a complete shocker, really, wasn't it? It's sort of the most unexpected thing, really. But hey, we're out at the other end, so we can forget about that.
Definitely.
On a scale of 1 to 10, where 10 is the weirdest, how weird are you?
That's a hard one. I don't think I'm weird, but I think like I space out a lot in terms of music sometimes. So I'm like, okay, probably from another perspective, I'm weird. So I would say a solid 5 can be in terms
solid
of
bang in the middle.
Yeah, in a very
excellent.
Musician perspective, probably I am. From inside, maybe we don't realize.
That's normal. What is your spiritual practice, if you have such a thing?
Like, what do you mean spiritual practice?
As
like,
in,
place?
Do you have any religion, or is music the thing you look up to, or
Well, I grew up in a Catholic family, obviously being Italian. And actually, it's been the opposite. Like, I was like, for me, music and religion were very associated back then. Now I'm way more like just in the music world. I like to stay in touch with the nature as much as I can, and that's where I have my spiritual moment. I would say that's definitely having some times to stay alone and think about it.
Yeah, that's very at one with nature. That's good. What would you do in the event of a zombie apocalypse? Obviously, it's the same as sort of COVID times, but slightly more weird.
I would probably be making music. I would be playing until the end of time. I'm like, this is my way of communicating. Let's do it. Let's blow them away with the saxophone.
Tell us something that you're not very good at.
Wow. The first thing that comes to my mind is like, I'm very not organized in my room and in my personal space. I'm crazily tidy and I want things to be clean and nice outside my personal space. But I'm like clothes everywhere. And I'm very messy in general. Like, I forget things a lot, and also to reply messages. I think that's the worst thing I can think about me. Like, my mom always says, Simone, you're a very good guy, but you're such a mess.
Well, we made the schedule for this Zoom call, so that worked quite well.
Yeah.
No one missed it. So
I'm very precise in terms of work. It's just when I'm in a comfortable space, I'm like, okay.
Tell me something that you think is true, but everyone else thinks is not true.
Oh my God, it's a hard one.
Any theories about certain events that you think?
I don't like to be. I like to be very scientific in my life. So I studied scientific science back in Italy. So I don't have any strange theory. Honestly, I can't think about that.
No. Sorry. You're not a conspiracy theorist, then?
No, not really. I love science, and I try to respect them and try them. Even if I like to get informed and realize like, okay, maybe this wasn't true, but I'm very scientific in that perspective.
As you are Italian, I'm going to assume that your diet is very Mediterranean. Mm-hmm. However, tell us what your ideal sandwich is.
Ideal sandwich is, well, definitely Italian. So like typical panini bread, panino. I love Parma ham with mozzarella, bit of oil. And
so stereotypical.
Black pepper, and that's all. Yeah. That's life changing. That's my happy place, actually. That's my happy place. Parma ham with mozzarella.
Excellent. Do you rate yourself in terms of being a chef as well?
I'm not bad. I think like again, cooking is my happy place, and I love it. Yeah. So definitely, yeah. I defend myself.
Excellent. Do you ever think when you're sort of working and you're cooking using the oven and the hob and stuff, does it feel like using turntable and controller and stuff? Yeah.
I remember back last year when I started DJing a lot, I was coming back to the kitchen and look at these things like, oh my, this is so good.
There's no music.
Yeah.
Describe for us your morning routine, if you have one, because a lot of musicians tend to sleep through the morning and play at night.
I try to have, and honestly, I have waves of behaving well and waves of like completely like sleeping a bit more. But I try to be active in the morning doing stuff. Definitely, there are some days on the week that I manage to get up and do some exercise, go to the gym. Other days that I decide, no, stay in and admin. And then usually my creative part of the day is after lunch. So being set and trying to do some music, looking for more information, or late night when there's peace around, is when I love to be more creative. So mornings are my chill moment of the day, definitely, usually.
Excellent. The final strange question on here is if you're DJing / playing the saxophone at the end of the world party before the world explodes, what's your final song that you'll be playing or playing saxophone over the top of?
If it has to be a saxophone song, it would be No Man No Cry by Simo Sax, probably because it became, not voluntarily became my anthem. Okay. But if I have to DJ, it would be Word Hold On, Sinclair.
Very apt.
I love the song. It's been my last songs on my first proper set in a venue in London, and I was so emotional when I played it. And still now, sometimes when I play it, I'm like, such a tune. I love it. It means a lot to me. So yeah.
Do you play your sax over that eternal whistling, or do you leave the whistling and then do the sax?
I usually don't play sax on that.
Okay.
There are some songs that I really love that I'm like, I'm not going to touch it.
Excellent. So can you remind us where your residencies are at the moment, just for anyone who wants to know?
I'm on Friday nights from 7 to 9, more or less, 7:30 to 9:30 at Pergola on the Wharf in Canary Wharf, and I do DJ saxophone. And the new residency started last week is at Boundary Hotel on Boundary Rooftop in Shoreditch. And is 3 to 7 in the afternoon. Is completely different concept compared to the Friday one, but is a lovely place where to have a drink and listen to some nice tunes and saxophone. So I hope to see you there, because I enjoy doing it, and I hope people enjoy coming to do it.
Perfect. For those who don't know, we sent you out to the Bahamas whenever, I can't remember when it was anymore. Was it February, March? I can't remember.
Yeah, end of February. Yeah. And that is probably the second best gig of my life. Apart from the venues, but the gig I did the night that I DJ and play sax for was 2 hours. The response and the vibe was amazing, and I was very happy that night.
Excellent.
So thank you.
With those sorts of private events, as you know, it's like sometimes you've got a crowd that's amazing, and sometimes you don't. So it was good because you had a perfect location for it and good crowd as well.
Perfect location, lovely crowd, so everything went smooth. So very happy about it.
Excellent. It just involved a longer flight, that's all. But you made it.
Jet lag was hitting hard, but I made it.
Yeah. Well, fantastic for this. And thank you very much. And we'll catch up soon.
Yeah, same. Okay, have a good rest of the
Okay,
day. Thank you
Simo.
so much.
Take care.
Bye.
Peace out. Ciao, ciao.
Storm DJs Podcast.